My guest today is Anel Alexander, writer, producer, A-list actress, I've been told.
Oh wow, go on, go on.
and really a wonderful person, cum laude student back in the old days.
That's correct. Not that I think that ever meant anything to cum your drama degree, sadly. It's all about, do you look the part, can you deliver the goods?
But you've done that.
Yes, yeah, well.
I want to talk about your new project, Sync, because it's a fascinating project and believe this could earn international awards.
That's the aim with it. My husband and I own a small production company called Scramble Productions, and Sync is our third feature film. We've done Discreet, which was a small art house film, very much a learning school for us. Then we did Semi-Soot, which was much more a commercial venture. And now Sync for me is an absolute passion project. I think we've realized the audience in South Africa is small, but very loyal, but it's unfortunately an audience that's not going to grow a lot, and in order for us to tackle different genres and not just the genres that make money at the box office, we have to start looking at making films that will travel beyond our borders, and Sync is hopefully going to be that. It's a drama, it's a
heartbreaking story.
It's absolutely a compelling story. It's about Rachel, a Mozambican domestic worker who lives and works in Johannesburg. She works for a couple called Chris and Michelle Jordan. And then Rachel's faced with a very difficult decision when her child tragically dies whilst under the care of her employers. Does she go back to Mozambique, to her poverty-stricken country, or does she stay, keep her job, and basically keep on working for the people that are responsible for the death of her child? And then it becomes even more complicated.
Was it an accident? What was
It was a very, very tragic accident, and I think that's one of the themes we touch on. It's loss, about dealing with guilt and forgiveness, a situation where a tragic accident kind of brings these three people's lives together.
Take us through producing a movie. I mean, this takes a lot of courage. Here you and your husband, you sit down. What's the journey? How long does it take from the time you say, I like this project, I believe it's based on a novel, to the time that you're due for release, and then what happens afterwards?
We very much started producing out of necessity. In the time when we started acting inside, my husband's also an actor, when we started acting, which was a couple of years ago, there really was very little happening in our industry. You had soap operas, we had a couple of drama series, and I think at the time we produced Discreet, which was our first film, we were one of 3 South African films being made that entire year. So we quickly realized if we ever wanted to act it in something other than a soap opera, we were going to have to make it for ourselves. I had literally physically had to make a film to be in a film. And then you quickly realize, okay, producing a film so that you can act in it is like buying an aeroplane so you can eat the peanuts. You get to act for about 2 weeks and you produce for about 7-8 years.
Exactly.
So making a movie just so you can act in it is not good enough. You actually need to be good at it and enjoy the act of producing as well, which I do. I think I'm unfortunately a much better producer than I am an actress. But I enjoy doing both, and I think being an actress-producer makes me better at doing both. As an actress, I have the absolute luxury to be on all the different sets on South Africa, and I get to see how it works, what people are doing right, what they're doing wrong, and then by the time I have to, as a producer, put my own team together, I have a very good idea of who I want to work with, things to avoid, things to do better, and all of that.
So you need money.
Money, you know what? Money.
So that's what because money takes you raise it here, you earn it.
Yes,
a
and
long
it's a
time
very long investment period. In the beginning, when we did Discreet and Semi-Soot, one of our biggest challenges was finding finances. Now, today, I would say our biggest challenge is making that money back. The reason why you're seeing so many South African films coming out all of a sudden, we're receiving a fantastic rebate from the DTI. So we get about 35% back on QSAP, qualifying South African expenditure, which certain line items that qualify for the rebate, which has made it infinitely easier to produce films in South Africa, which is why you're seeing so much content coming out all of a sudden. Even with that, the films are still not making a lot of money. It's an incredibly expensive medium. We have a very small audience in South Africa. The Afrikaans film industry seems to be making money back. You've got a captive audience. The second you go and you make English content, you're competing with the rest of the world. There's English content being made in Hollywood, in Bollywood, in the UK.
Those Afrikaans movies are so good. Is Sync Afrikaans or
Sync
English?
is 60% Afrikaans, 40% English. We wanted to keep the foreign aspect of it so that it can travel as a foreign film. But you'll see when you watch it, you walk out there and you don't realize you've just watched an Afrikaans film. It very much feels like you watched a South African film. And it's a film that looks at, as South Africans, we tend to make films about our history or the past or apartheid or AIDS, whereas Sync is very much a film looking at where we are at today, in our society today, where in our communities, where are we at? And I'm very proud of the film for that reason. And I think it's time that we as an audience also start looking at where are we at now, what decisions are we making, and introspectively look at our relationships.
And how do you take this international? You've made a film, you release it here, you've now got to attract international audiences. You've got the whole world, from America to Europe to the East.
You literally do have the whole world, and it's very daunting. That was part of the reason for us making Sync. We want to go learn, how do we sell our products overseas? Our films, South African films, haven't quite managed to break into that market. Of course, we have the Totsies and the Anand Singh films, and those films doing well, but those are few and far between. So Sync for us is very much a vehicle to go learn that. A big way to do that is through film festivals. Film festivals attract all different kinds of buyers and the rights sales agents and those type of people. You get the film festival circuit, and then you get film markets.
How do you get into a film festival?
That is hard. It is very tough, and it's very tough without names attached to your film. But it's hard to get into the big guys. They want the films with a name director, a name actor, people with a track record. But then there's a very good second tier, I want to say. There's a film festival. There are 3 film festivals every day of the week. And you just need to find the festivals that are right and good for your product. And then you get the film markets. Like I've attended a couple of the American film market, the Cannes film market, which I attended last year, which are some of the biggest film markets in the world, where you literally go, it's like a massive expo, and you literally go and you go sell your little film to all these different distributors and sales agents. And
so where's Sync at the moment?
At the moment, we are working on our South African release, which is on the 18th of March. We are releasing nationwide in South Africa, which is very exciting. And
there again, where do you release in South Africa? Where does it go to?
The process,
is it Sandton City? Is it?
Yeah, the process generally is you get a distributor on board. Our distributor for Sync is Times Media Films. We've got a couple of distributors in South Africa. UIP, Statkiniko has a distribution leg, and then Times Media Films, and then 1 or 2 other smaller independent ones. They take on your film and they help you to distribute it to the Statkinikos, the new metros, the independent cinemas, get it onto TV, get it onto the VOD platforms and all of that. So you generally work through a distributor. Of course, you can self-distribute if you want to. Some smaller projects opt to do that. It's a lot of work to do that. But in South Africa, I think our industry is small enough that we,
Are you already moving on to the next project now that you've completed this one?
Oh, I'm so far from completing this one. It's a good 7-8 year process. It really is. I would say it takes about 1 or 2 years to write the script, get the finances together, look, it also depends on how much money you have. Money is time, and which we generally don't have money.
Where does the money come from? Private investors?
At the moment, the system is the DTI gives us about 1/3 of the money. Then we typically do pre-sales to an Mnet or a company or a DSTV, which pre-licenses your film. So as opposed to where I would have made my film and gone to sell it to TV once it's done, now the TV license pays me the money up front so I can make my film. And then the other 1/3 would be private equity and product placement, soft funding.
So you're much more a business person than you are an actor.
That's what producing is. Producing is like Uber project management. I think people rarely understand what the producer actually does. As the producer, you're the head honcho, you're the boss. You literally, you're juggling cats. You need to get all those different elements together, and you are with the project from inception right up until the very end, when you eventually, a film goes through the stages of it's released on cinema, then it's released on DVD, DVD sales, then it's released on VOD, which in South Africa is DSTV box office. then internationally on Netflix and iTunes and all those things.
And the life of the movie?
The life of the movie, it's there
indefinite.
forever. Yeah.
How did this all start?
I think I've always been absolutely fascinated with the magic of the medium of media, whether that is film, theatre, radio. I believe media is such a powerful tool to tell stories with, to challenge audiences with, to spread ideas with. And I've always had a heart to use it for good without sounding too esoterical.
As a young girl?
I've always wanted to change the world. So there's that aspect of it.
That's a line from 42nd Street.
Oh, really? Must I add some jazz hands to that? And then I've always wanted to be too many different things. I've wanted to be an astronaut, a psychologist, the first female South African president, blah, 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 blah. And as an actress, I'm afforded the luxury to be all those things. My first film, Discreet, I played a high-class working girl. And that gave me the opportunity to go interview, tons of working girls, get to see their world, get to see how it works.
Did you write it? Did you?
Yes, we did as well. And it's something I would never have been able to do. I would never have. With Sync now, we really, the background of the film is a little bit, we look at the xenophobia in South Africa, and I had to do research about those things, which I never would have done. Get to meet very interesting people. I often present as well as an actress, which, like you, gives me the opportunity to meet really interesting people. I suffer from severe FOMO, fear of missing out. So I'm incredibly curious, and I think as an actress and as a producer and working in this entertainment industry, it really satisfies that hunger to know and meet and see everything.
I've learned a lot. I've learned an absolute fortune about the industry, and I didn't realize the amount of time, effort, and business brain you actually need to make it work. Sitting in front of the camera, acting, learning the lines is probably only a small part of it.
It's such a tiny part, and I think as a producer, that's what I've learned now, that where I fit in as an actress, and I think that's why it makes you a valuable asset to other people's productions, because as a producer, I understand now how much work it is, how it all works, and how it all fits in between. It's a weird and wonderful industry.
Well, I wish you all the best, and
Thank you.
My hope is that somewhere down, maybe next year, I see you walking on the red carpet with Ryan Seacrest. What's his secret job?
Yes.
And that you appear on a different channel, on the E channel there, being interviewed for the success of Sync.
I will wave.
You've been on the couch with me, David Shapiro, and Anel Alexander.
Not the casting couch.